During the meditation session at the Eckhart Tolle retreat last month, he kept repeating a phrase that has informed my personal practice and my teaching ever since. Give your attention to the breath, he kept saying. Give your attention to the stillness. Give your attention to the inner body. He repeated that phrase over and over, give your attention. And at some point, I started hearing something else in my own heart underneath these words. Something that I understood in myself. Where you give your attention is what you love. What you give your attention to is what you trust. What you give your attention to is what you believe has the power to give you what you want. And when I sat with that realization, it was both uncomfortable and enlightening. Because here's where my attention actually goes. It goes most automatically to relationships, to conversations I'm still processing, to how I feel about something that was said, to trying to understand a dynamic or resolve a tension, to making sure there's stability there. My attention goes to my work, to content, to strategy, to trying to build something, to that sense of purpose. It goes to the conceptual side of what I'm trying to create. But the stillness, I talk about stillness and presence a lot. I practice stillness and presence with my students. But when I come home and I step back into the role of mom and the role of business owner, I don't give stillness the attention it deserves. Not consistently. Not with the same kind of automatic trust I give other things like relationship, like work. I write about the moment I understood this most clearly in my memoir, Undone, Unafraid. I was driving with my toddler asleep in the back seat at the time, white-knuckling the steering wheel, obsessing over my husband and our relationship. I pulled over in a strip mall parking lot and called my 12-step sponsor. And after I talked myself out of where my head was spinning, she asked one question. What do you need to surrender? And I realized I had my husband at my center. Not God, not peace, not the present moment. I had my husband there. I prayed out loud. I surrender my need to be seen, my need to be right and validated. And as I gave that attention to the state of my own heart and the stillness and peace that was there inside of me, warmth flooded my body. When my toddler woke up a few minutes later, I was fully present. For those 20 minutes, I had given my attention entirely to something other than my fear, other than the problem, and the shift was immediate and unmistakable in me. My messy path out of my own rock bottom was one moment after another, just like that, one moment at a time. That is what attention given to stillness did for me. And if attention is love, if where I put my attention reveals what I actually trust to give me what I want, then what does that say? It says that some part of me trusts my relationships, my effort, my strategy, my ability, more than it trusts the stillness. Even though I teach and consciously believe the opposite. Even though I genuinely know that the stillness is the portal. I know that every good thing that has come into my life has come through that stillness. Every clarity, every healing, every aligned next step, and every alignment in the relationships that I care so much about. That alignment has come by putting presence and stillness first, through surrender, through making the deep quiet a priority. Because it opens something in me. It opens something that is bigger than my small self. I know this in myself because it's been proven to me in my own life again and again. And yet I still do not give it my attention the way I give everything else my attention. What we give our attention to reveals what we ultimately trust, at least in that moment. And most of us, even long-term practitioners, are living with a split trust. We intellectually trust the stillness, but we behaviorally trust our effort. We trust our thinking. We trust our activity. We trust the things we can see and measure and control. And that gap between what we say we trust and what we actually trust, as evidenced by where our attention goes, that is where a lot of suffering lives. I want to ask you something, as a fellow on the journey like me. If you tracked your attention for one day, not your thoughts, just your attention, where would most of it go? Not where you want it to go. Where does it actually go most naturally, most automatically when you're just living your life? For most of us, it goes to problem solving, to relationship dynamics, to productivity, to the mental chatter about all the things we are managing. And that is not a judgment. It's just information, and it's power. Because once you can see where your attention is going, you can start to make a different choice. Not a forced or effortful choice. Not a discipline of dragging your attention somewhere it does not want to go, but a natural, gentle reorientation toward what you say and what I believe both you and I actually do value. This is such a complex and challenging balancing act. To know the being dimension and exist in the doing dimension and try to bring that balanced marriage into every new season. Everyone is different. That's what I've seen in myself. I can't control how each new season of my life impacts the way my patterns, my pain body, my ego shows up, but I can control where I put my attention. And if I can remember to give my attention to the stillness instead of the problem, that's where my power is. That's the practice. And every time you notice your attention has gone somewhere else, somewhere that is not the stillness, at least keeping one foot in the stillness, gently offer it back, like you would gently offer a child's hand back to your own. That is it. That is the whole practice. Because attention given freely and consistently to stillness is what opens the portal, not our conceptual knowledge, not effort. Presence feels like lightness and ease, not strategy, just attention and trust. I'm Becky Moeller. My year-round framework, Undone Academy, is what has held my spiritual path of awakening through the teachings of Eckhart Tolle and others in that same spiritual space for the last 6 years. If you recognize that your journey needs more structure, needs a container, and needs a community that's in the practice with you, check out Undone Academy at the link below. I'm there every week at a live Zoom call where we're focusing on a new concept, a new skill that helps us give our attention to the places where the power is. In the last video of this Eckhart retreat series, I'm going to talk about something I saw very clearly at this spiritual retreat, a specific form of spiritual ego in myself that does not get talked about, and how it's often part of being in healing work for years. If this video served you, I hope you'll join me there.